No Red Light Radios presents No Red Light Radios. Hello, and hope everybody's doing well. It's been a little while since we've done any of the updates to Expert Electronics EESDR version 3. So I'm going to go over an upcoming release that hopefully will be released here publicly soon. This will be EESDR V3 Release 11. So with that, let's get over to the main screen here and get ready to open our control panel to launch the application. So we still have our standard EESDR 3 device manager and control panel, like in the previous versions of V3. You'll have a list of your devices that are on your network or devices that you have chosen to use remotely. And speaking of the remote, we should be having an updated server release here soon, hopefully by the end of this month. At least that's the game plan, I think, at the current stage of things, is that they're going to be releasing an updated server version. The updated server version will allow us to finally have the TX capability as well, so that'll be nice. Well, basically, you can refresh your discovery list with the refresh arrows here. You can click on your firmware manager. If there's a firmware update, this is where you would update your firmware now. It would show up in here, and you could click on it and do the update. You still have your tabs. Your main tab is the first one. You can name your device and create a profile picture, by clicking the little edit button here. That'll allow you to name it, and you can choose a picture that you want. If you're doing remote, it's still going to go out to the cloud server for the handoff. Actually, not for the handoff, but for the authentication. Once it is authenticated, it'll be a direct connection from whatever your remote device is to where your radio is at. So that'll be nice. It'll be directly connected then at that point. You also have the Expert Sync for doing synchronizations. And then just your build information, version and build information. So let's open up the software, and I'll kind of go through a walkthrough of the features and the buttons. We'll go over the main screen, show you where a few things are and how to access some of those and set them up. So we have our main power button to start it. Your options for choosing receiver 2, your band manager, and I'm kind of just gonna go through these real quick, and then I'll go back over the ones that have sections that you would probably most likely go in and tailor or turn on and off, things like that. So just kind of the layout where things are first. So your band manager has your antennas for transmit and receive. You can hover over one of the buttons, change which antenna port you're using for those. Remember that 2 meters is always going to be on antenna 1 or the ADAC. But your general receiver, you can change, where you want those to go. And then your transverters, you can set those to go out the ADAC as well. So I'm going to go back through the HF section real quick. You'll notice that some of these I have underneath PA. I have them toggled or highlighted. Those are the ones that I actually have, if I'm on that band, that will trigger the amplifier to go into PTT mode for the amplifier. You can set your delays going from receive to transmit, and then likewise from transmit to receive. Case in point, there would be something like a preamp, like a mass-mounted preamp or an inline preamp, maybe for 10 meters or 6 meters. It's common there. You have your receiver gains. So if you were using a preamp, you could adjust that in here. There's been a lot of questions with people asking about ALC. Currently, all the expert rigs do not have an ALC output. And in order to control some of the solid state amplifiers, the best way to go about doing this, if the amplifier has an ALC input or doesn't have an ALC input, is to actually really set your power curves in your configuration here. Let's just say that your amplifier can't take more than, as an example, let's just say it's 30 watts drive. You can go through here and set the power curve, so you would figure out where you get your 30 watts, and you would put that in as the percentage in there. So you can play around with this, watch your external power meter. I'm suggesting watching an external power meter because I have found that the internal meter it's not accurate. Hopefully that gets resolved, but currently it's not accurate. So I would use an external meter and then go through your percentage, to figure out where, if case in point, like I said, if let's just say your amplifier takes a maximum of 30 watts drive, particularly like a solid state amplifier or something like that. So you could set in here whatever that spot is percentage wise that would give you no more than that 30 watt drive output. Then regardless of the ALC, the amplifier, no matter where you are, the amplifier wouldn't get 30 watts, more than 30 watts drive, no matter where you slid the drive slider up here. If you slide it to 100 and you've got this set so it's only going to do 30 watts, that's what you're going to get at 100%, is that 30 watts. So that's the best way to go about using an amplifier that has an ALC input when, like the 2DX and the MB1 that I know of, the MB1 that I know of. The 2DX I'm positive about doesn't have an ALC output. So you could set that power curve or power correction in here. That way, like I said, no matter where you slide this slider, if you go to 100%, if this is set so you can't make more than 30 watts, then regardless of where that goes, it's not going to peak over the 30 watts. The goal, actually not the goal, but I think the best scenario would be to actually set it a couple watts below what that peak is that your amplifier can take on the input. So if it's let's just say again, if it's 30 watts max, maybe you want to set this so that the rig can't make more than 25 or 28 watts. That will give you a little bit of play there. Let's see, that should be it on the band manager. Like I said, you can change your antenna inputs for receive and transmit. So if you're using a separate receive antenna, you can set that separately in here. And then you have your external control tabs to turn off, which pins are active on the DB connector on the back of the radio. Transverters, you can rename these, band 1. Let's just say this, wanted to name this, 440 or something like that. You could rename that text button in here. And then you can set this if it's just receive only, or if it's, capable of doing TX as well. You would just, turn off the receive only so it's grayed out, and then you'd be able to transmit through that transverter as well. And again, back to the band manager, that transverter section, going through your ADAC. So you set your frequencies, the offsets in here, and then your beginning and end frequencies so that it's displayed correctly when you were to go to using one of those transverter setups. Here, I guess, let me do this. So if I go, I think this one's set for, so this one's set for 440. So if I go to band 1, you'd see the offset is starting at 430 megahertz. And again, if you change this, I might have to actually click out of here now. Let's go there. So now it says 440. So you can name these to whatever that transverter frequency or transverter group would be, which makes that a little bit easier to deal with. You have your preamps. Let me actually get back over to something here so I don't mess myself up later on. Your preamps, again, you're toggling left click, -20, -10, 0, +10. Typical of SDR receivers, you will get a lower noise floor with the +10. So I usually leave everything at the +10 unless I've got something that's really strong and I want to attenuate a little bit. Again, typical of true SDR receivers, it will not change the S-meter reading regardless of where you put the attenuator. It's directly sampled at the input, so that's where you're getting that voltage conversion to your signal. Your volume control and your global mute, which will mute everything. Your monitor, if I use monitor, it'll be through the headphone jack, so you can slide that here. The little hamburger will give you the option to load stations into memory or frequencies, repeater offsets, things like that into memory. And then you can save and import these as well. If somebody saves something and you wanted to import, let's just say a repeater list. Somebody locally to you has a repeater list for 2 meters, and you want to import that, you could import it into here. So you'd have those frequencies and offsets and CTSS tones, etc. Would all be imported in there as well. So when you would click on one of them, it would just, case in point, just take you right to that frequency. Let me close this guy back down here. Whoops. Okay. Go back. All right, so the expand feature basically just kind of spreads this out across the top for you. Your little gear icon is going to give you your settings, and in here you're going to have underneath the microphone setting, the input setting, you'll have your options for your boost and DC block rotators, noise gate, pre-processing, your filters. Again, these are, you can click on them to change what you want these filters to do, and the frequencies and the curves and the gains are reduction. That's all available in here, and they'll show up in the graph. You have your compressor, your clipper, noise cancellation, your Vox settings, and then a full parametric EQ. So you can change the frequency, the Q or the curve. It's all fully changeable in here, and you can just kind of drag these to, set what you need to set frequency wise, and then you can adjust your curves. Just right click on it, and then you can use your mouse wheel to up or down it, or You can type a number in there as well. And you have your, accumulates and spectrum before modulation, the signal input after or modulations, so you can look at the curve of everything with the, I think they're using pink noise on that. I'd have to double check that, but I don't particularly use this. I use the some outboard audio gears, but that's in here. It works. It's pretty easy to set up and use, and it works well. I just prefer the outboard. And here's where you would also choose what mic input you're using. Again, on the 2DX, not to be confused with anybody, because I've seen this happen quite a few times. The RJ45 is mic 2. The little TRS jack is your mic 1. And remember that the TRS jack, the mic 1, always has it always has power on it. So if you're using something like a electrolytic mic that requires that 3 to 5 volts, you can use it on mic 1. If your microphone doesn't need voltage on it, there is not a way to turn this off. That is a downside, and I really wish that they would do an option with being able to turn that off, because you don't want to apply voltage on a microphone that doesn't need it. So the workaround for that, for the guys that are using that jack, is put a blocking capacitor in there and block out that voltage so it doesn't reach the mic head or the mic element, and you should be good that way. I just use mic 2, the RJ45 connector. It's pretty easy to pin that out. You can do an import and export of microphone profiles. If you had something set in here, you just name it, whatever you wanted to. Save it in a folder. Create a folder called mic profiles. Probably be the best thing to do, and save that there. And then you can always go back and do an import to recall that particular mic profile. And that'll only save the mic profile settings. It's not going to change anything globally. I'll show you another section where you can now save global profiles. Although I find it a little convoluted, and it's just, I don't know. Maybe it's just me and I'm nitpicking, but I think there's an easier way to do it, but I'll show you. Next tab down is your headphone settings or your audio settings for receive. You can tailor the receive audio. I try to leave everything flat. You do have presets in here as well, so you can save several different EQ settings, whatever you like to do. You have a loudness button in here as well to help boost a little bit of the frequencies. Your balance control. And then I'm going to get into this line outs here shortly, but that will be how I am dumping audio through a virtual audio port when we turn the radio on. That'll show up in OBS Studio. So that's how that audio on the radio is going to be recorded on this. Right now I have that turned off. Actually, the radio's not even on either. So, but you can set your record pass. You can do when you turn on the line out to wave. This will actually, for receiver 1, what I did is I made a path for, on a separate drive, and I called it RX1. And then you can set the duration of time that you want that to record before it starts the next clip, and it'll just keep naming these, it timestamps them. So let's just say, for example, this first clip was, at 5:30, and in 5 minutes, the next clip's going to start at 5:35. That makes it really easy to send people recorded files. The other nice thing is this does convert a WAV file after it's done to an MP3. So you will obviously condense the file quite a bit from WAV to MP3. And that's all done. It'll save it in that folder. And then you have the same thing for your second receiver. Excuse me. You have the same thing for your second receiver, same options. I just made another folder or subfolder and called it RX2. So that way, if I'm using the second receiver, those recordings are going to go into a separate file. Same thing for your line out, which again is how I'm going to be doing this for OBS Studio. I have these set up to virtual audio cables so that I can import that audio into OBS, or you can import it into another program if you're looking to export your audio or import your audio into another application. You can set these. You have your drop down. You have to actually turn these off. Hold on. So you have to turn these off in order to change anything, but it'll give you a list of what's available, and you can just select that and go from there. Make sure I got that back on. Your third tab down on the left, underneath your settings, is where you're going to set your frequency cutoffs, your transmit passband. So, typically on this profile, this would be something I would use down on this end of the band with a group of guys that I typically talk with down here, but we run a little bit wider audio. So currently on that, I'm cutting off at 38 on the bottom, and my high is 8K. Your taps, if you remember, like in V2, where you had, I can't remember what they were called. It was still called taps there, I think. But this is where you would set, obviously the higher the number here, the sharper the filter. So I typically try to, if I want a brick wall or something at 8K, I've run this all the way up. Now, the maximum tap so far is the 3800. And I'll, again, me personally, I want to brick wall my TX. Whatever I have this set at, that's where this is going to come into play on your filter taps, or your filter skirt, your transmit filter skirting, as I guess another way to look at this. If obviously if this is set lower, the skirting is going to be a little more relaxed, and you can come out past that, to a point. I try to keep this, wherever I have this set, that's where I know my start and my stop is. And it seems to do, for the most part, pretty well like that. Now, I do run a little bit more relaxed settings, obviously, in my digital modes, upper and lower. And then here again is where you would set your AM modulator, either side of carrier. So I got 4500 or 4.5K either side of carrier is where that's set. Your narrow FM modulator, I'm just going to say this. 2-meter sideband and 2-meter digital modes seem to work really well. I'm not overly impressed or happy with the 2-meter narrow FM. Something's not right with it, and it hasn't been for quite a while in V3, and hopefully that gets resolved. But it just, the audio can be kind of grainy there and weird. It doesn't sound like the deviation is set correctly, and I haven't played around with this enough to try to make recommendations on where this should probably be set. Maybe at some point I'll do that with one of the guys I know that has a receiver that actually has a deviation meter on it that he can watch and see and try to get it closer. But I can tell you that it's not right. It'll work. You'll be able to go on a repeater. Guys will hear you. It just doesn't sound, to me, it just doesn't sound right. And the reports I've had from other people is it just doesn't sound right if you get somebody that knows what they're listening to. An average user that's probably listening to you on an HT would probably, something like a Bofang or a Waxon or maybe a cheap TYT or something like that would probably not notice it. It'll get you on the air is what I'm saying. Your tone generator, you can turn this on so when you click tune, and actually this is a, I don't know why this happens either, but I'm not happy about this. Just to point this out, if you turn on the generator, if you key the radio, I use a foot switch to go into transmit mode, okay? if I hit that foot switch, if I have this on, it will throw the tone or the two tones that I have listed here. I use two tones, but you can turn a single tone or one or two tones. So whatever you want to put in here for your frequency for your tones. If I just key my foot switch, regardless if I'm in tune mode, if I key the foot switch like I'm going to talk and I have this on, I'll be damned. It's the damn tones. It's not my audio. I don't think that's right. I think that should really only be something that should be able to be used in when you click on tune. But that's just my personal opinion. Yours will probably vary, but just wanted to point that out there in case anybody was thinking otherwise. Case in point, maybe you have a solid state amp on and you go to TX and you've had this on. This might overdrive that power, possibly, depending on if you, again, in the band manager, set your power corrections. Also, the power corrections can be set here as well. So, this is supposed to represent 100 watts. Again, lots of things, lots of posts on these, on the 2DX. This seems to be kind of all over the place. I've seen guys, only getting 70, 75, 80, 85 watts out, at full drive power. I get close to 95 on most of the bands, with exception of, I think it's 10 meters. I can actually get more than that. And 6, I get more than the rated 50, but I think that might be pushing things, and it may be actually clipping it there at that point too. Now, granted, I do have a first gen 2DX, and the first gens were only supposed to do 40 or 50 watts on 6 meters. I have seen mine do, if I play around with this, I have seen mine do 70, 75. I just cut it back. I got an amp, I don't need it. On 10 meters though, what I have noticed is I have to watch this, and I really probably should play with this power correction. On 10 meters, I have seen the radio on an external meter, not the internal meter, as again, like I said, this internal meter is not accurate. Use it as a guidance. That's my best advice. Use it as a guidance. It's not 100%. It's not... I'm not even good. It's loosely accurate. How's that for a description? It's loosely accurate. Gather a bunch of external power meters, MFJ, Comet, Bird, Powerdyne, something else, and take a kind of an average of all those, and you might end up somewhere in the neighborhood of this, possibly. Got a feeling it's going to be on the lower side. What was that? Oh, okay, the power corrections. But yeah, you can change those in here as well, besides changing them in the band manager. If you have the external 2DX automatic antenna tuner, you would most likely probably want to enable this after you get your list build of, frequencies that you go back that the tuner's got memorized. Your frequency correction, this is still kind of a pain in the ass in my opinion. It does work, takes a really good ear, or best advice, use a reference oscillator and you won't have to deal with this. If you use tuning by ear, say some guys use the FL Digi thing. If I'm doing this, I've gotten pretty good at doing it with WWV here stateside, as long as the signal's strong enough, and by that I'm saying 15, maybe 5 over, but preferably 10 over or higher, and listening to the ticking there, and then 0 beat. You need to move your frequency correlation up and down, and you have to physically type these in. Okay, so my advice is start big, see which way you actually really need to go, if it's up or down, and then narrow this setting down the closer you get until you get, to a spot where you could maybe change it a few numbers at a time, instead of doing big gaps. Again, I think it's a pain. Coming from older software, even old Power SDR, in the early days had an auto calibrate in there, which would get you pretty close, and then you could manually tune it from there, by moving it up and down just a few numbers at a time to really center that carrier point and zero beat things. Not the case here. Again, I'm not knocking it. It is what it is. After you do that, you definitely want to do the right to save that to the EEPROM in the radio. Your reads will do your recalls. Defaults will put things back to a default EEPROM setting. Your IP address, whatever you have the radio set for on your particular subnet, and your port number in order to get the radio and the software to connect to each other. That's kind of important. This is your app launcher. If you want to automatically start a third-party application, maybe SDC or maybe tuner reminder, things like that. If you find the application path, to that application, look for the exe or whatever file launches it. Scroll through, click that exe file, hit open. It'll put it in the path, and then if you have any arguments that you need to pre-configure settings to launch that application or whatever, you would put those in here and then enable this. And then whenever you launch EESDR 3, that third-party application will launch as well. I just like to manually turn things on and off. Your Spectrum auto positioning. Actually, I probably really need to turn the radio on for this stuff here. So let's do that. I am going to mute the radio though. So your Spectrum auto positioning it kind of gives you a starting point or a position offset for your floor, and then you can change that in here, where this is varying at by the percentage. I like to leave it on auto, and I found the number that works for me, which is 7%. That seems to be decent. And it keeps it consistent through all, going through different bands. I've turned it off, so here. I don't think this is gonna... Yeah, you can see how this is now down below, but I am on the wrong antenna, so it would be attenuated. But if I turn this on, you can see how it's raised it back up. So this keeps my, where I'm looking position-wise throughout, band fades or different conditions, switching from band to band. It keeps it fairly common. So that's kind of a nice feature. Get back over on the right band for... No, I'm still in the wrong band. I'm having one of those days, so excuse me. Your contest panel here, this is new in version 13 and the last version 12. This will allow you to... Here, let me turn these off. So your bands panel... you pretty much, if this is off, you have to go up here to click on whatever band you want to use. If you turn bands panel on, you'll get your list up here. So you don't have to hit the drop down. You can just, click on that. That's nice. It's quicker and it's faster. I leave it on. Your modulation panel, same thing. What mode? It's really your mode panel. Rather than having to click over here and go through the list, you can bring it right up on the control panel interface. So you have your listing of modes. This is new, and to me it's kind of fluff, because I personally think you should be able to colorize the waterfall more than the pan adapter. But again, your opinions are probably going to be different. To me, being able to see the hot spots and the weak spots on the waterfall underneath different shades of colors, hots, reds or bright colors, and your weakers or darker colors. It'd be nice if you could actually customize that to your likings. But anyways, so you can set, the fill line, the color line, spectrum line. So your spectrum line is this top one. You can change that to whatever you want. I'm not going to change it like it where it's at right now, but and the same with your fill line. You can change that as well. The scalable waterfall, I'm not even going to go over this. So your spot limit, this is where if you're using a third-party application that has, ability to pass spots to the pan adapter, this is where you would set that time limit that they would fall off the pan adapter. Not off your spotting software, but off the pan adapter itself. Okay, so I have it set currently that, 50 spots per band. That's the maximum number of spots it's going to show for me. You can change this to whatever you want to, and then I have it set regardless of what my third-party application that is collecting and passing my spots. I have this set to 10 minutes, and I'll explain why these are in different colors here in a little while. When we get to that point about the spotting. The last tab underneath here, this is where you would, the broadcast data, this is where your packet data would come and go to from third-party applications. Example, N1MM, LogHX, Log4OM, things like that. Your clusters, whatever you're using for clustering. I prefer to use SDC, and so I have a port number in here for that to pass that port traffic from SDC, which is why my spots are in different colors depending on which server is actually, which telnet server has actually collected that spot. You have your IQ recorder now, and you can change these to, HDSDR WAV files or Expert SDR3, and you set your path again to whatever you want. Hopefully I didn't just lock up. Nope, there we go. Wherever you want to, save those files at recording wise, so you can set that up. I choose HDSDR. Yeah, let me try that again. I have chosen HDSDR, and then I have the HDSDR application loaded as well. So if I turn on the IQ recorder, which is right here, it'll record this entire band, and then I can go back, play that on HDSDR, open up individual frequencies or modes, and then listen to that, whatever's been recorded. Take note when you do this, make sure you got drive room, because it will eat it does eat up quite a bit of drive space doing it. So new in version 13, this is your global profiles, and this is what I said earlier about this. Personally, I think this is a convoluted mess. This should be up here, maybe next to the hamburger icon like it was in V2 with the little head of a person here, or over on the side. I think there was another spot. No, the one on the side over here was for your mic profiles. There was a little person icon up here. I think they should put a little globe here, and then that, automatically takes you to your set path of where you want to save and recall your global profiles. So let me show you how this works. Currently, in order to get to your global profiles, you have to, let me start all over. Click your gear icon to open up settings. Typically this would be here. You have to click down to the bottom, the 4 little dots. Go down to profile, and if you're wanting to save one, you would hit export. I like to save things in folders so that I know what that folder is and what it goes to. So I did Sun SDR and then versions. So I have to click through all those in order to get to where I want to save my profile. Same thing. When I want to recall a profile, I have to, once again, if I want to import it, I have to do the same thing. Go back to my mappings, go back to that folder. Where the heck did I just go? Go back to that folder, find my profile, hit open, and import it. Now let me show you how this works. It does work. It does work. It's just, I think that's just a little, I don't know, there's too much clicking going on to get to and from these. It's not a fast, easy thing to do, and it should be. Here's an example. Like I said earlier, down on 75 meters, I like to run 8K of TX. That's great. Early in the morning, down on 75, the band's open. There's not a lot of people down below us, and typically, that group's been there for quite some time. People pretty much know that, there's going to be 6 to 8K audio there. That's just how things are at that section. But let's just say you wanted to go back to, let's say 40 meters. And I'm going to use an example on a Saturday or Sunday where you got all these early morning nets. So you just came off the 75, the bottom is 75, and you've been running 8K or 6K, or it doesn't matter, okay? And you want to go back to like a 3.5K or a 3.2K or whatever your preference is, okay? So back underneath your modulator tab, where I showed you I had 8K in here. So this is my 8K global. And if I go back here and I do an import, once again I got to go through the list. I got to find my folder. Here, profiles, and let's just say I want to do 4K. So I'm going to open this up in 4K. Now you see, I'm going to have to turn this back off because it saves everything globally. See, it does save everything globally. It works. You'll look, see here, I'll be at 4K now, okay? So it shuts things down and opens them back up underneath that new global, and you're off and running, okay? That's a simple thing, 4 to 8K. Let me show you how much faster it is. If I just, without having to click through that whole mess there, if I just type in 8 and I delete my 4, I'm done. I just went back to 8K. And that's how easy that choice should really be on global profiles. It shouldn't be this whole convoluted mess. Granted, okay, the global profile saves everything, so you could have, totally different settings on a lot of this stuff, but still, it should be easy to get to. It should be easy to get to. That's me, I guess, bitching and griping. I don't know. I just think that this ordeal of having to do this, export, find the folder, say, name it, save it. Okay, I get the naming and saving it. Yeah, that makes sense. But why can't this go back to the same damn path every time? That'd be a step in the right direction. Okay, so that takes care of the settings tab. So this gives you your information tab again. Version 13, you see the build date. This came out yesterday for the dev group. And again, this just maximizes your screen. Full screen versus, wherever you had it set. Next tab down is your transmit and your tune. It's pretty obvious, what those do. Again, these are not linear with each other, nor are these linear to power curves. They are closer than they used to be, I will say that. 56 here is, I don't know, I think on my external meter, 56 here was like 45 or 46 watts. It's closer than it used to be, but it's not right. And I'm not really complaining about that. I'm just throwing that out there. Just watch this. You'll after you use the radio for a while, you'll kind of in your head remember, oh yeah, 56% is X amount of wattage on output on tune. Same deal with drive. These two are not locked. Okay, they're not linear with each other. Pay attention to that. That can get you in trouble. Some bands are closer than others, but pay attention to it. Again, progress has been made there, but it's not the same. Your Vox settings, actually to turn on Vox. Whoops. Your audio mixers, say you're running, the second receiver open and you got headphones on, or you're listening to audio coming out of in a stereo situation, you could dump, receiver 1 on the left and receiver 2 on the right. That makes it nice during contests when you're bouncing back and forth between two different bands and trying to keep track of things and know where you're at. It takes a little while to get used to that, but it works. This will mute whatever receiver you're on versus this is a global mute, okay? So this will mute everything. Receiver, RX1 or RX2. You'll see the same panel pop up if you do the second one down here. Global mute. Your CW break-in, and this is also where you change your CW settings for your macro speeds if you're using macros, your PTT delays, your pitching, if you're using paddle key or straight key, and iambic key, etc. That's all done in here. And again, that's pretty common up here what that is. Transmit. Got ahead of myself. If you do a recording, you would click this guy. This will record now whatever's here. It doesn't save it to a folder. It saves it in a queue. Once you turn the radio off or change frequencies, that is gone. Well, I don't think if you change frequencies. If you switch bands, let me back up. No. Sorry. If you power the radio off, that's gone. Okay? If you want to record something and hold on to it, make sure you use the record button up here. If you're recording something, let's just say, hey, Joe gets on the air and says, hey, how's it going today? And you notice Joe's got this nasty AC hum going on his audio. And you say, hey, Joe, there's something going on with your audio. And he says, oh, really? What is it? Well, give me another transmission, Joe. You click record, and Joe's transmitting away. And, yep, sure enough, he's got this really nasty AC hum on his audio. And you stop it. And you say, okay, Joe, here you go. And you hit play right here, this play button. That's going to play it back, depending on if you right click or left click, over the air or locally. Again, once you do that, or once you hit record again, that previous clip is gone. If you turn the radio off, that previous clip is gone. If you want to save something so you have a record of it or can email it, you want to use the record button up here, and then like I showed you earlier, save it in a path. It's gonna start recording it in a wave, and then when it finishes that time mark or you stop it, it will convert it to an MP3. Your modes, again, pretty straightforward. That's where you would pick those up. Your AGC. There's been some work done with this over the last few versions, particularly the nice feature of the threshold, the AGC, automatic AGC, I should call it. So if you get in front or underneath where it says AGC, you have this auto gain setting. This is remembered per band. At least I think it is, if I recall correctly. I could be wrong. Don't pay too much attention to me. I can be a real idiot at times. But this, you can set your AGC level and it will float in here depending on band conditions. It'll try to keep this at a consistent level for you. Let me see. Don't really have any signals here to play around with. Let's go to 40. Yeah, 40 is active. Okay. So I'm not going to turn the audio on, but if you notice, see how that is floating around between 57, 56, 58. It's on auto. So it'll try to keep this at a consistent AGC level for you, whatever preference you like. And you can get this set really nicely, so you don't have, a lot of crappy background noise and you're just listening to the signal that's there. Now, granted, if the signal's really weak, you're gonna have to pull the AGC up some. But for the most part, if a signal's, I'd say S5 or stronger, it seems to work really well. S5 or under, your mileage is going to vary. Again, I already went over the drive and the tune. Remember, they're not linear. Here's where you would adjust the input gain for your mic. And if you hover underneath of it and right-click, you'll get your choices for mic 1, mic 2, or if you're using, say, a USB microphone is plugged into your computer or headset and it's plugged into your computer for transmitting, you want to use it, you can use the microphone PC, and whatever microphone you have set in PC for your input microphone will be passed to this as well. Your signal meter, you have your standard S meter readings on the bottom scale, your dBMs on the top scale. If you right click this, you will go over to the mic meter, and then in transmit, let me go to a dummy load. Okay, I'm on a dummy load, so nobody complained about anything, okay? So if you go here, then you can see, and there you'll notice that there is my 8K profile on transmit. So, but there's where you would adjust your mic level. Right click on the meter. It's something I'm going to say about this as well. You have an RMS and a peak. Get somebody you trust and you really know that can give you some really good on-the-air guidance with this, or use something externally that you can watch your peaking with. Okay, I don't feel that this is, again, like the linearity of the drive and the tune. This is better than it used to be. It's actually been improved quite a bit from what it used to be. It's still, in my opinion, it's still not right. That's my opinion, though. And there's a few other people will tell you that as well. So don't bring this up. It's really hard to get it to go to zero. But that said, if you're getting close to it, you could be overdriving it. Maybe you're not. Just kind of keep an eye on things and get over the air reports. Okay, I'm going to unkey. Again, I was on a dummy load. So, you know what? Oh, it's muted anyway, so that's fine. Yeah, so let me go back to power meter. All right, so yeah, in transmit mode, this will go to your power output now and your SWR meter. So you can flip them back and forth, mic meter, mic, output power and SWR. You can change receive and transmit antennas on the fly. Obviously, you're not going to want to do that while you're in transmit mode, and I haven't tried that yet. I don't think it will, but I guess we could try it into a dummy load. No, wait, I don't want to try that, because if it doesn't do it, and it goes out over the air, wait, where am we at on 40? Okay, my SWR is good here. So, receive, left click, you can choose whatever antenna you want. Same with transmit. Left click, choose whatever antenna you want for that band. Okay. Let's see. I'm going to try this because I haven't tried it yet. Okay, so I'm on my 40 meter antenna. Cool, I'll be damned. That's probably not a good thing. Actually, I can't do this because I don't have anything plugged into antenna 3. I was going to say I could go back to the dummy load, but my dummy load's actually in my... Dummy load's actually in the antenna switch. And, yeah. Okay, so that time I did transmit over the air, so I apologize. Hopefully I didn't bother anybody. Power was turned down pretty far, and, well, no, not really. I apologize. That was, if anybody complains, that my call is innate SDR. Again, your IQ recorder. This will erase the spots that are on the pan adapter. If I click this now, it's going to delete these spots. Okay. That's just, same as if they would have fallen off the 10-minute interval that I had set earlier. This will allow you to save your station, kind of similar to, well, actually, it is how you would use this, to save this. Excuse me, to save whatever frequency and band and mode and that you were on. If you click this, it's going to pop that in there. I can label this whatever I wanted to, if it was a net or something that I did here all the time. I could call it, the old pecker net or whatever the hell. Let's see. I'm not going to save that. I want to trash that particular one. Let's get this. No, I don't want to delete all. Just go away. Okay. You can obviously lock this, so if you roll your mouse wheel, I'm rolling my mouse wheel. You can't see it, but this will keep this from shifting on you, because that's happened. I couldn't tell you how many times, you got a web page open or you're scanning through somebody's QRZ site while you're talking to them and scrolling down their page, and you accidentally move back and focus on EESDR, and now damn, where the hell was that guy I was talking to, and you've lost him. If you get into a long conversation with somebody and you're looking at stuff, it's probably a good idea to lock that. You can roll your mouse wheel up and down to, change your frequencies. Obviously, I went into general receive on 40 because I'm going out of band here. Same with your fine tuning. I've got the set for 1 steps. Excuse me. Transmit. I'm transmitting on this. I'm not running split, obviously. If you wanted to run split, you could hit transmit over here and set your band and your mode and go from there. That way, there's my receive, here's my transmit. You can do your sub receivers in this as well. You can swap them back and forth, your A and your B to A, and swap, whatever you're wanting to do. Make sure I get back on the one over here, or I'll be screwed up later. Your band selector, I think I said this earlier, your band selector, your mode selector, or over here. While I'm on this panel, I have seen this comment a few times. I'm using digital upper on VE on version 3. It's not working if I use, FT8, WSJTX, or JTDX, or MSHV. Oh, by the way, my preference is MSHV for a reason on TCI, that you can actually control the audio output and the input gain on TCI with that with that software that you cannot do on particularly WSJTX, especially on transmit. So if you're having problems with digital modes, FT8, FT4, things like that, look at MSHV and give that a whirl if you're wanting to use TCI and you don't want to use virtual audio cables or things like that. That works really well. I did a video on that too. You can look that up. But yeah, don't they've gone down here and they've clicked on FT8 and it doesn't work right. Well, yeah, it's not going to work right. This, at some point, right now, I'm just going to call this a placeholder, okay? This is a placeholder. This section is a placeholder. This isn't functional. This is something that's planned at a later date that may or may not come true. Time will tell, I guess. It'd be nice, not having to use a third-party application for some of these modes, and it's built into the radio and into the software. Yeah, that'd be sweet. If you're using the digital mode for now on V3, depending on what it is, digital upper and digital lower are your friend, not this stuff up here. This isn't going to work out well. So just keep that in mind. Let's see, where else was I at? Okay, get off of this. This will do your steps back and forth, frequencies and bands that you were on previously, modes. So you can see anything that I've clicked since I've restarted this on the profile change is, I'm going back to those frequencies. That's great for contesting. Somebody's calling this DX or this station, and he's got a huge pile up, and you're running QRP, and you tried to call him a couple times, and you're gonna wait till it dies down some and stand a better chance. Okay, you want to work with another guy. You move off the band, work wherever it was, and okay, you want to go back. I can't remember where that guy was. Click the back button or click the forward button. And you'll go back. If you click the center button, you'll see a list of the frequencies that you've done, and you can just click these individually too and go right there. Now that's handy. That's a handy feature. Your RITs, receive incremental frequency. You can adjust that in here, your offset. Same with your transmit. If you want to run a shift or whatever. Here's where you would adjust your tuning steps by rolling the mouse wheel or clicking on these guys. Still not a real big fan of this AGC selection here. I still feel that there should be a user mode in this. I don't know if that's ever going to happen, but you have normal and fast, okay, with the left mouse button. And if you right click, you can turn it off. So you have off, fast, and off and normal. Whoops, off and normal. Okay. Noise blanker, I'm going to go back to 40 for this, and I will turn the audio on in a minute. You can see when I switch my antenna that actually what I was showing you with the scalable piece, just went line blank. Your spectrum display, you can see how that floated back and reset that stuff. Here, case in point, 40 meter antenna. 20 meter beam, 40 meter antenna, 20 beam. Now watch, if I leave it here, there you go. It drops it back down to where it should be. Even though that's the 40 meter antenna that is not going to be resonant at all here on 80. I'll have the 80 hooked up, but just so you get an idea what that was. The noise blanker. So let's actually go to 40. Now the noise blanker I am pretty much impressed with. It does work. It works quite well, especially for power line noise. I don't want to blast myself out here locally, but let's try this. Hopefully this doesn't get too loud. I apologize if this does on the recording. So currently I have the noise blanker on. I'm going to unmute this, and you should check on OBS. Yeah. Okay, so you should have audio out. So my noise blanker is on. Oh, it looks like 40 meters. Took a big crunch. Usually when you see stuff like this, the band just died on you. So there, that's off. This is the power line crap I gotta listen to here. So, you know, that's an S7 signal. You know, turning it on does work really well about getting rid of that. Like, you know, these guys up here, and that's kind of nasty. So that's kind of nasty, you know. So that's much better to listen to, and it doesn't distort the audio. I'm going to mute this again so I can talk. It doesn't mute, or it doesn't mute. It doesn't distort the audio. So you have your threshold setting and your pulse width settings in here. Only use what you need. Don't crank this all the way up. You don't need it all the way up. Just get it to the verge of where it starts to affect the noise, and then go maybe a couple dB higher. So, you know, presently I got this set at 38, and, you know, I'm comfortable there, but I probably started at 36. Just bump it up a couple dB. Leave it there. You should be good. Same with the pulse width. Slide it to where it just starts to knock out that noise, and then bring it up just, you know, one or two more. Just bring it up 1 or 2 more units. You don't need a whole lot. Your binaural audio, this isn't going to do too much over the recording thing, but, you know, gives you kind of a stereo effect. Noise reduction, yeah, it works. Not real thrilled with it. I think you're better off, personally, I think you're better off playing with the noise blanker and the AGC. It doesn't distort the audio too bad, but I'm just not impressed with how it works. The automatic noise cancellation works better than noise reduction does. You have 3 choices in here. This would be nice if at some point you had a 4th option of, you know, customizable user setting, and you could actually figure out what was going on in this. That could be really handy. The notch filters work fantastic. I will say that. Case in point, I have a really nasty AM broadcast station that is literally 800 and something feet across the street from me. Their fundamental frequency is AM 1450. Their 5th harmonic is horrendous, and it comes out right on 40 meters at 7250. Okay, 5th harmonic. 1450 times 5. Or 1450 divided by 5. No. 14, jeez. Forget anything I'm saying. I need to have a beer or a couple shots. My mouth's getting dry. Anyways, they're at 7250. Let me go to 7250 here. I'll show you what I mean. So I have this notched right now. I'm going to slide this down where you can actually see it. Okay. Oh, by the way, the little diamond thing here, you can scroll across the band. And you can right click or hover over this so the hand comes up, and then right click and you can expand these to look in greater detail or minimize it to see more of the band, whatever your preference is. Let me find my little diamond and go back to 7250. Okay, so I have this notch, and you can see there's actually, it's cutting this. At 7250, you'll see that little line. It's actually down. It's lower than, the base of the rest of the receive here. So my notch filter is turned on. I'm going to turn it off. So there's my AM broadcast station across the road, and it's all nice and wide and really trashy and sounds like crap. It makes it hard to work these guys that are, at 7255 or 7245 or 7248. I can actually, if this is on with this notch filter, the guy at 7248, I could work. As long as he's, out of my noise level, I could actually work him. If this is off, forget it. Ain't no way in hell. So I will say that the notch filters work quite well. And to add another notch filter, you just click the plus sign, and then you can drag it to wherever you need it and set the width of, with that particular notch. I'm not going to screw with mine because I have these set, and I like where they're set, so I don't want to screw with it. Receiver bandwidth. Let's go back here again. So, user controlled. You can still, you can drag this. Whoops. Drag the end of it to open it up. Still won't go out to 10K. I think it goes out to about 8. Be nice if it went out to 10, but it should be able to go out as far as you can transmit, to be honest with you. And what would really be nice, and it's been suggested, is if in your transmit profile, your receive profile by default would open your bandwidth the same as your transmit on your receive. So the bandwidth would match. Okay, that would be nice. Because I can tell you there's guys that will go into wider transmit than they do receive, and then they don't realize that there's somebody down below them or above them, and they're in their passband. I try to listen a little bit wider than I transmit. I think that's just a courtesy thing. Guys already jumped me for running wide TX audio, but I don't do that if there's somebody that's been there and I know I would put myself on their passband. I don't do it. Okay? If I'm there first and the passband's open and I'm having a good conversation with somebody and I want to run a little bit wider audio, then I will do that. I will open my transmit bandwidth up, and I will open my receive up so it is at least the same as my transmit, but typically I try to open it up so it's beyond my transmit to a point. I think that's just good operating practice. But your defaults, 2.5, 2.7, 3, 3.3. User, you got to grab a hold of it and slide it to wherever you want. Be nice if you could add a couple, just 2. If you could add 2 customizable defaults, that would be cool. Doesn't have to be, an option to add 15 bazillion of them. But 2 of them would be handy, I think. Just personal. So that's about all of this on the top row, and I think I've covered most of this, and where most of the settings are. Again, this is the V3 soon to be public release. I don't know exactly when that's going to happen. I'm going to assume probably within the next, I'm going to say 3 weeks to a month. Hopefully it happens then. If it doesn't, don't bite my head off, okay? I'm just a messenger. Kinda. Or something like that. Let's see. Oh, yeah. I don't know if some of you guys know this. You can grab a hold of your Dbm scale over here and set this, okay? Where you want this to actually show up on your waterfall, Let me get this back how I had it, or close to it. Kind of like to prefer it around in here. And then the same on transmit. Let me go to a dummy load. Okay, I am on my dummy load, okay? Just so nobody... You can see that big notch now. You know, where I've notched that crap out. See, there's something right at 7245. There was... You could see a... part of a carrier or something there before. But anyways, okay, so same on transmit. You know, you're going transmit. At first I couldn't figure out why in the hell is my transmit way off the scale. Well, because it was up like this, you know, and I couldn't see the top half of it. Drag your dBm down, and it'll solve that problem for you. And it'll stay there. It'll stay. I can't remember now if this is adjust. Yeah, by band. It stays by band. So, I think, oh wait, nope, I did leave out a few things. Okay. Hold on, don't get up and go get popcorn yet, or have to go and take a piss, or bathroom break, or smoke break. There's more still. Close this. So, jeez, stupid Windows 11. Right click will do your sample rates. Right click and left click to open this. I've got mine set to 312, which is the highest sample rate I can do in V3. So that's going to cover more of the bands viewable. Windows 11, gotta love it sometimes. The little link button down here, the chain link fence, as I call it. This is where you would turn your bandpass filters on, or your high pass, low pass filters on, or you can leave it in auto mode. I don't know. Even in V2, I never left this in auto mode. I always used it. I always set this to BPF. I don't know. Maybe it's just my location. It seems to work better there, but some of that could be because of that damn AM station across the road. But I always leave it in bandpass filter mode, and I always make sure that my VNF LNA is turned on. Otherwise, it's deafer than a cement block waiting to dry. Yeah, make sure if you're using 2 meters that the damn LNA is turned on. External reference, you know, I pointed out earlier that whole kind of hectic way of tuning, of setting the frequency for the radio so that it's on frequency. You know, if you had an external 10 megahertz external reference, you could just turn it on right here and whoops, yeah, it's looking for it. Okay, you could turn it on and then you'd be locked. You know, as long as your GPS was locking, then the radio would lock and everybody would be happy and you'd be spot on frequency. And you know, guys with older Kenwood, what's the Kenwood that drifts? Well, the older Kenwood that drifted all over to hell, you know, they could tell you were off frequency. And you wouldn't be. You'd be on. Sorry, Kenwood makes some nice stuff. I just know that some of the radios really are quite drifty. Let's see. Oh, okay. Almost forgot where I was at. Again, information screen. This is for the hardware of the radio. So you're going to get your serial number, your firmware versions, your PCB versions, your PA versions. You know, if you got an ATU, it's going to tell you that it's connected. If the PLL is okay. If you're using an external reference, you know, back on the other link, if you turn that on, this would come on if you had it connected, and hopefully all this stuff would still come up and say that it's okay and locked. That's the game plan. That's what you want it to say. You don't want none of this to say something besides being okay. That won't be good. It won't be good at all. Your temperature setting, and you can right click and change it from Celsius to Fahrenheit. And then you have your voltage and your amperage. And these will vary on transmit and receive. And drop a volt. So receive, I'm pulling 0.7 of an amp and 13.7 volts, and transmit at this power level, I'm pulling a little bit more, drop a volt. Actually, that was just a key up. So just keying it up has dropped it that. If I modulate, I'm sure it's going to go. It should go more than that. Let's find out. Hello, hello, hello. Yeah. Okay. So again, I was in a dummy load, so nobody give me crap. At least that time I was in a dummy load. I was in a dummy load before. There was an exception a while back, I don't know, 20-something minutes ago, when I thought I was in a dummy load and forgot and keyed up on somebody on 40 meters. If that guy watches it, I apologize, and it was nothing intentional. Over to the right a little bit more, this is where you would set your output sound device. Again, you have to, in order to change any of this stuff, you have to, and I'm not going to do this, you have to disable it by left clicking so it's disabled, and then you can change these settings. Okay, so they're locked. If it's green, it's locked. Whoops. Same with TCI. I set my TCI port to match what used to be in version 2, because for a while I was running V2 and V3 pretty consistently together, and this made it easy to run all the external TCI apps without having to reset port number. So I just changed. I think, if I remember right, by default in version 3 it's 5001. In version 2 it was 4001. So I reset my version 3 to 4001, so I didn't have to redo any apps. If you've got your ecoder and stuff, that's going to show up down here as well. Let's see. CPU usage for the software. I do have OBS running and OM4 is running. You can see that, yeah. So there you can see that. No, you can't see. Hold on. Yeah, OBS is running. Log4OM is running. And the software is running. The other stuff's on a second monitor, so that's not going to be captured right now. But anyways, there's your CPU load. And here's where you can change your application scaling for your monitors. Typically run 100 to 105. 105 fills out my screen really nice on a 31-inch 4K. So that works really nice there. I like that. You can't see on this side. You need a mirror. You're going to have to get a big one. You can change this from local time to UTC time by left mouse clicking. So that's nice. Obviously, if you click over the day and stuff, it's not going to change that unless you happen to, get close to the cutoff where the day would roll over, or maybe perhaps roll behind, depending on where you're at. All right, I think that's about it. I hope this was somewhat helpful. Not a lot of really major changes between the last few releases. Hold on. Repeaters. Yeah. So, I knew I almost forgot something. Oh, crud. I don't have my cable connected from my antenna for 2 meters. Okay. You can do positive offsets now. Yay! Hey, that wasn't working before for repeaters. You can only put in negative offsets. That's fixed. It does work. You can put a freaking positive offset in there now. Congratulations. So, yeah. Repeater, positives, you don't need anything in there. If you want to do a negative offset, you just put a minus sign in here. And this should change over here. Whoops. Yep, there you go. So there you see that offset dropped 600. Go back to positive. Oops. Got to turn the repeater function back on. If I change this from minus 600 to just 600, my 14338.970 should have 600 kilohertz added to it. There you go. Okay, positives work now. You've got your squelch. This is kind of weird. It took me a while to find this. Your burst tones, you know, if you got a repeater that requires a burst tone, or maybe you've got a little group set up that requires burst tone, so that, you know, guys in that group or users in that group have to send that burst tone in order to open up the squelch or to make a call. You can set that in here. Squelch. So if you click on squelch, okay, notice there's nothing here. See, my hands are, there's nothing in my hands. It's completely free. There's nothing out on the table. Click on squelch. You'll see this little yellow line. So this, you can slide back and forth to adjust your squelch. Okay. I don't have an antenna connected for 2 meters, otherwise I could pull up a repeater and show you. But you can adjust the squelch by sliding the yellow one back and forth, and you'll see a little gray outline will follow in this little window and will follow the squelch, and once it gets past the squelch threshold, then the receiver will turn on and you'll be able to hear it. If it's below the gray lines, below the yellow threshold, obviously it's squelched out and you're not going to hear it. So that's where that's at. Your CTS S-tones. Turn it on by left click. Whoops. Turn it on by left click. Right click will allow you to set your settings, and you can set it as a pair or you can set them individually. Okay. Again, we just went over the repeater one. This gives you your offsets. Hey, and then, you know, let's say you get all that stuff programmed in there. Now you want to hit that plus key, okay, as an example, but I don't have this set. But as an example, you know, let's just say some repeater. Name it whatever you want. Hit enter. All that stuff is going to be saved now, okay? And it knows it was in repeater mode, so you can, you know, go back and edit it, rename it, remove it. So I need to remove this one too. Okay. Oh, this, by the way, is apparently a global trash can, which will remove everything. Hey, I just found another bug. Looks like every time you open up a global profile, it adds a new one to this damn thing. Alright. What do you know? Found something on the fly again while it was in record mode. Imagine that. Alright, hey. It's still an alpha or beta or alpha beta or alpha omega or omega alpha or soon to be released publicly, may or may not be release. I don't know. It is what it is. Hope you all have a great day, and I will maybe catch you on the air. Hey, leave your comments and whatever in the thingy below, and, you know, we can chat about the good, the bad, the ugly, the not present, the supposed to be present, supposed to be coming present, and hell, anything else. Buy me a beer. Get me a shot. Whatever. Take care, 7-3. Hope you all enjoyed. This is Rick, N8SDR.